So there has been this trend that has been going on for a while now where various people on different social media platforms, most especially Twitter and Tumblr, go around fixing art from professional artists or fixing designs from shows that don't fit their highly placed moral standards, or literally just fixing art from people whose content they don't enjoy. Some people I enjoy watching have talked about this as well, sharing their opinions with various points. So today we're going to stop peeking through the keyhole and look at the entire situation. If you're not familiar with the term fixing art, well, basically it starts from one person online. As per usual, they see an image they don't like, which in some cases it's mostly due to reasons best known to themselves. Then they immediately go, I should fix this drawing that doesn't belong to me and upload it to shame the artist and put the artist in their place. That's a really good idea.
That's stupid! Use your common sense.
Most of the times they do this to fit their moral standards of how art should look, ignoring the fact that art is subjective and each person's taste of art will be different from the next person's taste of art. And things like style and medium play a huge role in how an image is made up and presented to viewers. Sometimes they fix art by desexualizing characters they feel are hypersexualized, but they always take it out of context and disregard things like story and character development and how certain characters have personality traits that can be portrayed through their costumes and features, which is really not something extremely difficult to think about. And some of these people use race bending to fix a character, with the most popular one, which was the entire issue with Zeefixesart and her entire escapade with Shannon, but we're still going to talk about that later on in this video. Another popular form they use to fix art is when they pretend to give constructive criticism to the artist, but it clearly doesn't sound like it, judging from the tone they use whenever they post their tweets, and it just rubs off the wrong way on everyone who sees the posts. You can tell the person really doesn't care about the art or the artist and is just trying to make the artist look bad while making themselves feel superior to the artist for no reason at all. So I took a deep dive into some of these art fixers and I spent some time scrolling Twitter trying to find out why they even go ahead to fix art in the first place, and that is aside from just being a toxic individual on the internet. And most of the times their reasons always fell neatly into one or more of these categories: diversity and inclusion, social validation, ethics, and moral values. Yeah, the mind of a toxic person is quite obscured. Now don't get me wrong, some of these reasons are actually valid and very important, especially when it comes to art and creating content for media and entertainment. The thing is that people fixing art take these good principles and hide behind them, using them as shields while they spread toxicity and blow everything out of proportion. I totally understand wanting representation, especially for characters in shows, games, and art in general, but that clearly doesn't give you the right to take another person's characters or original work and fix them by making the characters black. That doesn't show you support Black lives, and that automatically doesn't make you a good person. Yes, there is a very small amount of inclusion and representation, especially in games and shows where people of color are not represented enough, but before you jump on that bandwagon and go around and start fixing art, you have to ask yourself, have you ever watched any show aside from Sailor Moon that was made by people of color and has a diverse range of characters in it? Have you even heard of Cannon Busters or LeSean Thomas at all? Do you know any professional artists or actual animators that are black and are working in the industry? But before we move on to the next part of the video, let me tell you briefly about the sponsor of today's video, Scentbird. If you're someone who pays attention to scents and has always wanted to change the way they smell to a much more exotic designer fragrance, well, you're in luck today. Scentbird is an affordable fragrance subscription service that lets you choose a fragrance to try every month from top designer fragrances like Gucci, Versace, and Prada. And then you can decide if you want to commit to a full bottle. You can choose between different fragrance scents if you're trying to feel sophisticated, sporty, fresh and clean, or just a little sensual. Each perfume bottle is pretty sizable with a generous amount of fragrance that lasts on you quite a while. So be sure to have fun and try out different fragrances until you find something that matches your style and suits your personality as well. Or if you're feeling a little feisty, you could try out a different fragrance every month and pull up on your friends as a brand new person every time. Scentbird is giving 55% off to everyone who signs up using the link in the description, so be sure to sign up to Scentbird and use discount code Agbadi to save 55% off. All the links will be in the description, and a big thank you to Scentbird for sponsoring this video. I feel like some of these people think it's the new cool to raise the BLM flag so high up, and apparently since it's the new trend, it's easy to hop on and use it as a means to shame people's work, especially if their work doesn't just fit well with you. Don't get me wrong, there are instances where this could be permitted to a certain extent, as I saw activists screaming at the top of their lungs for the skin tone of Nessa to be darkened and calling out artists for whitewashing when they couldn't use the appropriate skin tone when they were coloring Nessa. It truly baffles me how difficult it is to understand how to paint black skin. But there's a way to paint black skin without having it look grey and dull and washed out. Just take some photo reference of us. For most of these images, I definitely agree the skin tone could be readjusted and brought all the way down, but it still doesn't give you the right to take matters into your own hand and pull the saturation slider all the way to the left in Photoshop and upload it as fixed, making yourself the superhero and saving the day. Some artists intentionally do this sometimes, and when they do, you can definitely tell they are whitewashing characters, and then you can call them out for that. And then on the other hand, some artists just don't understand how to paint black skin and make it look natural and convincing. Instead, they claim to have a palette that they're accustomed to using, and a certain skin tone might not be on the palette where they paint, so they just tend to lean towards using colors they're comfortable with, which clearly is not as dark as the characters need to be. So the easiest and harmless thing you can do is just leave a comment politely stating the colors are slightly off and could use some adjustments to suit the race of the character, or better still, just send them a DM and be nice about it. Every artist learns every day, and a little polite constructive criticism might go a long way to help artists. Who knows? People who just take artists' work and fix it and re-upload it sometimes are actually just trolling or deeply seeking social validation. They go out of their way to attract people that think the same way they do by fixing these images and posting them online with things like, "I fixed this gross anime design and gave her a froggy cause her fit was boring," or other weird toxic things in the same manner. Who told you the design was gross? Why should you call another person's sweat and hard work gross? Do you realize some of these artists work insane hours and sleep under their desks working on the shows you enjoy watching comfortably in your homes? The hate is really beyond me, and I simply can't understand how they just do it. If a character in a show or a drawing from a popular artist is over-sexualizing characters out of context and making them look ridiculous, yes, they can be called out and criticized publicly or privately, whichever suits you. But if a character is drawn with basic proportions that are anatomically correct and realistic, you shouldn't fix them by increasing or reducing their entire body or certain parts of their body. This brings us to our person of the day, Zeefixesart. As you can tell with a name like that, she is a professional art fixer, and apparently she hates fat phobia. So she advocates for positivity by taking perfectly normal images and fixing them by desexualizing all the female characters and making them black, as if that was the only standard for attractiveness. And there's also this thing she does with all the legs that I don't seem to understand. The way she draws the features of the face and the legs kind of looks like a bad joke that only she and people who support her work understand. The most disturbing fixed art from Zeena is the one where she went out of her way to call out a fellow creator, a fellow YouTuber. Shannon, popularly known as Creepshow Art, which is the name of her YouTube channel, and she tried to make it seem as if she was making good points by stating she was criticizing her art. The faces are very misshapen and your shading is hideous, which to me is such a demeaning way to criticize a person's art. But then she goes on and says, "Your internalized misogyny is showing. Don't be so afraid to draw fat women next time." The most annoying thing is the image she went ahead and chose to fix was actually a portrait commission done by Shannon for one of her subscribers. Just let that sink in for a minute. It's literally an actual person. How can you fix an actual person in a drawing? I'm just wondering how disturbed the person must have felt seeing a drawing of herself criticized and redrawn by someone else entirely. Her entire features were changed to the point where we definitely couldn't even tell it was her at this point. You absolutely have no right under any circumstance or moral standards to fix a portrait of a person by ridiculing their features and changing their skin tone, even if you're doing it as a form of seeking representation. This is by far the extreme far end of fixing art that shouldn't be done by any normal human being to another person. And as usual, people on Twitter called her out with tweets like, "The issue with Zeefixesart is that they are doing body and race positivity all wrong. People can understand if they want representation, but by fixing art, they are putting Asians down and that doesn't help at all. That's hypocritical of them to do. If their way of desexualizing female characters is making them be bigger, having body hair and dark skin, that seems like they're saying that those features aren't attractive, which makes perfect sense. You cannot hold people's standard of beauty to whatever standard you hold for yourself. Literally everyone is different. You also cannot force a race or a gender on another person. Trying to be a saint by promoting body positivity is great, but not by forcing it down on other people and totally disregarding their own opinions." Thank you for sharing your opinion, Marie. I want internet clout, so I'll call out the art style of a much more successful artist so I can piggyback off of his success so I can get a chance to get somewhere with my shitty art. This just speaks to the fact that she also goes out of her way to fix anime designs by redrawing them and making them black. Do you have a problem with Asians? Do you have a problem with any skin tone that is not black? If you only want to see black skin, just move to Africa. It really isn't that hard. And then she goes on to say people who are making videos on her are giving her beautiful art all the attention it deserves.
No.
You've missed the point. People who are making videos on you are not just driving attention to you. We are literally criticizing you for something you are doing that is bad and harmful to other people. It really isn't that hard to understand. She clearly refuses to believe anything she's doing is bad and tries to make everyone else look like a bad person. My friend Omnia also made a video talking about this and calling her out, so you should definitely check that out after this video as well. It just seems she thinks she's giving constructive criticism every time she fixes a character, which she definitely isn't, and this is common too with other people fixing art where they think they're giving criticism, which they're not. Can you even fix art to begin with? Isn't art subjective and certain people will like that art that you don't? And then someone replied with a very good comment saying, depending on the skill level, some mistakes are made on purpose, some are legit mistakes. For example, drawing 4 fingers instead of 5 isn't considered a mistake if you're going for a stylized look. I think these people that just go around fixing art pretend to not know the difference between actual criticism and just being a hateful person. Criticizing an image is not just about saying certain elements look bad. You have to be able to understand the style the artist is using for the image and then make valid criticism by correcting fundamental mistakes in the anatomy, color, composition, while still keeping in mind the style the artist is using for his image. Because you cannot criticize a cartoony image the same way you criticize a realistic painting, because there are different art styles. And also, when it just comes to plain criticism, I don't think your social views and sentiments matter a lot, unless it's a theme that is being used in the image. I think the simple solution to this is to not take other people's work and try to fix it. It's disrespectful to artists who spend their entire lives working on a show only for you to conveniently come and take their image and post it online claiming to have fixed it when there might literally be nothing wrong with the image to start off. Just because it doesn't sit well with you doesn't make it wrong for other people looking at it. You can also criticize an artist constructively and politely without coming off as a toxic person and making a scene on the internet. Just leave a little comment with your opinions or what you would want the artist to change or take a look at. Some artists are quite reasonable and might take your advice, but if you want them to change a design in a show, that might not be possible at all because it has to go through a lot of stages before it can eventually come back to an actual show. Another thing you can do if you don't like the design of a show is to actually do some fan art of that character and then show what you will want the character to look like if it were your design. Since this is clearly not official, you are mostly in your rights when you're doing something like this, but if you still want to feel safer, you can always make your own characters and give them all the features and personality traits that are comfortable to you, which is a much more simpler solution to all of this anyway. So there's been some new hashtag T going on with our internet friend Zeefixesart, and from what it seems, they have really been going through a lot these past few weeks. Z got hacked. So immediately I went back to the account and went through all their previous tweets, which some of them were still there. Most of them are still there if you scroll all the way down to the bottom. But the profile photo was changed and the banner was changed as well, and everything that Z had written before on their profile bio was changed to this. Also, in the previous video, I kept misappropriating their pronouns using she instead of they unconsciously, and the comment section corrected me since they identified themselves as they. So now that I'm fully aware, I'm going to make sure I use their proper pronouns wherever I mention them in this video. Even though I don't enjoy what they're doing to art, I still respect them and other people that identify with that pronoun. So I'm clearly sorry for that misunderstanding, and we can move forward using the correct pronouns in this video. So I found out Zeena's account was hacked through the comment section of my previous video, and I decided to go and try and find out when they got hacked, because while I was making that video, the account was still active and they were still fixing art from popular anime characters and other people's work, with the last set of fixed images being Koishi from the Touhou project, which is a role-play game series. I'm not so sure about that. And basically they did the same thing where they take a perfect character and turn them completely black, and then they proceed to increase the size of their legs until we can't tell if they're legs anymore or they're wearing a space suit. I really can't understand how this is fixing art. These legs clearly don't look fixed in any way at all. It doesn't even look like the original character anymore. There is no way anyone will see this and just automatically assume it's this particular character. And then they went ahead to fix Marisa Kirisime, who is another character from the Touhou project, and she is apparently the least sexualized character in the entire roster of characters according to people that are familiar with the series. Now, be honest with me. Take a look at this and tell me what you think in the comments. There was nothing remotely wrong with the initial design. The character didn't need to be black. The character didn't need the entire design aesthetic to be fixed or their race swapped. If you have a problem with a character, or if you want to draw a character as a person of color, that's fine. That can fall under fan art. But a better idea would be to design your own character and fix all the flaws using your own character as a concept. Well, fortunately for us, those were the last two characters they fixed before the hacker gained control of their account and posted their first tweet on September 24th. Guess who's got control over Z's account? Get fucked. Apparently, the hacker is anonymous, so we clearly can't tell who he is. I even went out of my way to reverse image search some of the art the hacker posted on the account just to see if any similar art will show up, and I'll be able to tell who the artist is just from looking at the art style. But nothing came up at all, so I'll really have to give some credit to the hacker for covering all their tracks. And as a matter of fact, I'm not the only one who shared these sentiments, as the tweet itself got a lot of likes and a lot of comments with people saying, "You are amazing, man. Thank you so much for doing this. I couldn't take it anymore. Turning Japanese people into fat and black people, not because of prejudice, but because of sense, and they said it was some kind of fix," which is exactly my thoughts whenever I see any fixed character they posted. It just seemed as if they had issues with Asians and Japanese character design specifically. Why? Good job. I was about to send gore hentai to them, but you took control of their account. Nice work. You are our hero. If they ever come back, I'll flood their page with gore. No. That sounds awful. I understand you hate what they're doing, and I also hate what they're doing, but you don't have to post gore images or hentai images of them or tweet it at them, because clearly other people are going to see it and you might end up hurting other people while you're trying to just prove a point. Besides, it's just wrong. Don't be that person. Dude, you're a mad lad for hacking their account. Well, clearly a lot of people seem to be glad Z's account got hacked, because there were a lot of comments commending the hacker and praising him for hacking the account, which goes to show you Z had a really bad rep and people were just praying for them to be terminated off the internet or just hacked and have their account shut down entirely. People were even sending death threats to them at some point, which is just wild. That's extreme. There's also another account apparently which still goes by Zeefixesart, but this account seems to be just a parody account, which is just filled with tweets basically hating on Z, and the first pinned tweet is this, and I guess that's self-explanatory. And then there's a bunch of other retweets with people drawing fan art of Zeena and hypersexualizing them and drawing them without their clothes, which is just taking it a little bit too far, don't you think so? The account seems to be a backup account for the main account that got hacked, because as you can see, they're only following the main account. Meanwhile, the main hacked account is following just 26 people, and out of those 26, they're even following some pretty big names in the YouTube and streaming community like Leafy, Keemstar, Charlie, and Belle Delphine. So clearly the person who hacked the account is part of the community to a certain extent. And then I noticed this other account, which is Ash Fixes Z's Art. I don't think I'll bother with this one for now, since I'm already clearly in deep with Zeefixesart account already. Which brings us to the next issue at hand, which is the type of content the hacker is posting on the page after he successfully gained control on the account. Now I would like to show you right here on my channel, but this video will completely get demonetized, so you'll just have to use your imagination or simply just go and take a look at the account and see for yourself. But I must warn you before you try that, it's not safe for work content, so just keep that in mind. The first image is of Z laying on their back and a guy is in front of them mowing the lawn, and the second image is of Z with a human eggplant inside their mouth. These are pretty disturbing images, just me thinking of them right now. And in both images, Z still has their hijab on, which is quite questionable because essentially it's trying to basically attack another religious sect. Even just portraying Z or any other person but giving them characteristics or clothing of another religion and over sexualizing them in drawings, basically to the extent of drawing them in pornographic positions, can be seen as religious discrimination, especially by people of the other religion that you're drawing them as. It might seem like entertainment to you, but it always rubs off the wrong way, especially on the people who are part of the religion that you're making a parody of. And then a person under the comment said, "To be honest, I don't think this is funny. One thing is messing up with character designs and making their own headcanon, and another thing is messing with a real person, sexualizing them, and doing sick stuff to their persona. Please stop." Thank you, Lexu Jilla. I totally agree with what this person just said. There are tons of artists that are totally making a living off of just drawing hentai and not safe for work art. Is an entire community on its own and it's thriving. I have no problem with it whatsoever. But when you cross the line and start drawing real people without their consent and sexualizing them and straight up drawing porn, my guy, you need to be stopped. Every person deserves some fundamental human respect, no matter if what they're doing is bad or if you don't agree with what they're doing. Yeah, I may have watched a lot of hentai, but this is gross. This is a real person. Z may have done some terrible stuff, but why this? This is disgusting. WTF, she made mistakes, but this is wrong. We are talking about a real person. And if you keep scrolling down, there are more comments basically disregarding the choice of art the hacker is posting. The hacker also makes it his thing to retweet every hypersexualized fan art of Z, and he also gives shout outs to people that draw good fan art of Z. Actions like this just gives more people motivation to draw more disrespectful fan art to Z, and this just creates this loop of endless toxic behavior. If you can't improve a person or correct them into doing the right thing, don't join them in doing the wrong thing. The hacker then goes on a rampage exposing Z's list of muted words, and for someone who says they are LGBT, they have LGBT and LGBTQ as muted words. So that means clearly you are saying all those things to get attention while disrespecting people who actually identify as LGBT and LGBTQ, right? Genius. And apparently they also muted Has Been and Has Been Hotel, and someone in the comment section said, did they really block Has Been Hotel because they're all skinny in the show? Well, at this point, we can't really tell Z's reasons for doing things exactly, because on one hand, they claim to be something, and then on the other hand, they entirely hate it and put it among their list of blocked words on Twitter. The hacker also shows us Z's long lists of blocked Twitter accounts, with most of them being artists who have probably criticized them publicly, while some accounts might just be people they just didn't want to see anymore at all. The list is actually quite long and a lot of people are blocked. That's insane. I'm guessing some of the people that were blocked here as well are part of the people that were sending Z death threats in the DM, so I guess they just decided to block them so they could no longer send them messages anymore. My entire take on this situation is I clearly wouldn't want to say I told you so, but this is an I told you so situation. You can only get away with doing something like this for so long without expecting nothing to happen. It was probably going to end up with either Twitter suspending her account or someone, in this case a hacker who is much more powerful than Twitter, will take over the account. The other possibility is this was actually the plan all along. The person behind this account was busy scheming in the dark and doing all this to get attention, and once they felt like they got enough attention, they immediately flipped the account over, claiming it was hacked, and then they can just reveal their real self and their real art to how many amount of people they have gained following them. I'd say there's a 50-50 chance of this being at play here, but we really can't tell for sure if that's what's happening right now. We can only just assume. This situation should be a lesson to every other account that tries to fix art, hate on anime, and use race bending masquerading under the trending BLM movement. You're going to be stopped. It's only a matter of time. You can keep on fixing art and disrespecting artists, but you're actually not getting anywhere with yourself and your own art. Use that energy and fix your own art. characters. Work on yourself. And then my general advice to everyone else is just be good to the next person, no matter what color their skin is or how much they weigh on the scale. I think at this point we have seen the end of this long saga with Z, and we shouldn't expect anything from the account from now on, but we'll always have to be on the lookout because you never know what could be looming on the horizon line. Zeefixesart is probably the most remembered troll and toxic characters to come out of the art community on Twitter and the internet in general. From fixing art from several artists and popular characters, trolling artists here and there, claiming to support fatphobia and black artists in the art community, Zeefixesart grew a notorious profile within the art community, rightfully growing to become probably one of the most toxic and problematic trolls the art community has ever seen. But after an unavoidable incident on Twitter, they vanished from the face of the internet for some time, or maybe that's what they wanted you to think. I found out about Zeefixesart sometime during the lockdown when they started trending on Twitter for fixing various popular anime characters and even attempting to maneuver their way into the Uzaki-chan drama by fixing Uzaki-chan. Only their version was extremely way off from what the character was, and almost no one was able to recognize that was their favorite lovable character. According to the old bio on their now suspended Twitter account, Zeefixesart referred to themselves as a proud LGBTQ Muslim, and I'm not even sure how exactly that works. They also clearly stated they were fat and proud, and also wrote how much they weigh on their bio, because for some reason they felt people were targeting them just because of what they looked like and how much they weighed. Zeefixesart did a lot of art fixing and correcting in their terms during the entirety of their time on Twitter, and the image that brought them to the limelight of their would-be drama is this image of Uraka from My Hero, where they fixed the canon character by making her older, giving her darker skin tone, and adding a few pounds on her frame, ridiculously changing the entire character, who is literally a teenager in the anime, to a chubby adult in a costume. If you put these two images side by side, there is no way you can tell it is even the same character, if not for the costume being the same. Zeefixesart always felt they were correct, and fixing artists' work that they just didn't like or didn't look woke enough for them was always the right thing for them to do. They even went as far as calling the original artist who made the fan art of Uraka they corrected the P word, and when the artist replied, they just went totally berserk on him. Here's the thing, if a character is canonically underage, they are still underaged. I don't care how often you say, but I drew them as 18+, you still looked at a canonically underage character and drew them for your disgusting account. Zeefixesart argued that their version of the character was the more appropriate one, especially since the original fan artist version was a little bit too edgy. But since everyone is allowed to share a drawing or whatever opinion they have on their mind on their personal accounts without interference from any outside person, and if you didn't like it or agree with it, the only thing you could do is to leave a comment criticizing it and calling out the parts of the image you didn't like, which is basically how an open discourse works. But modifying an image and fixing it to aid your argument and validate your point is just pushing it too far, especially since you're not even directly correcting anything but changing it and pretending to show support to black people by drawing black characters and making them overweight to promote inclusivity of people of color and chubby people in one take. It's funny how they never cared about people of color or just drawing any black characters before the whole Black Lives Matter trend started, and then all of a sudden any character that was supposed to be black or just a tad bit lighter than what they were supposed to be was immediately fixed so they could get praise from black people on social media, since it meant they automatically supported black artists and any movement that was pro-black. Zeefixesart then went ahead to fix more characters from My Hero, saying the way the original artist drew the characters was gross and nasty and teens should not be drawn like that. But coming from a person that drew their own version of teens like this, I honestly think they were giving art advice to the wrong person. They also started fixing characters from JoJo in the same manner as their other images, and this time even changing the entire design of the characters and giving them full clothes, since the original designs were rather showing a little too much. A very common theme in all their fixed versions was to have the legs of the characters look like tree trunks, which I totally can't understand why they kept on doing that, except maybe it just was their art style and they felt it was the only correct way for them to portray chubby characters. As bad as fixing anime characters and just popular characters from cartoons and shows was, it even gets worse. Zeefixesart took their fixing art propaganda to the next level by literally taking a commissioned drawing of a real person and fixing it to their own perception of what an ideal female person should look like. Black, thick, and slightly hairy. And somehow in their own twisted sense of humor, they felt like this was a noble thing for them to do to another person's drawing of themselves. I'm just trying to imagine how the owner of the commission would have felt coming online and seeing a different version of themselves that totally doesn't even look like them in real life. And then the person who made the drawing claimed it was fixed, as if there was anything wrong with them in the first place. That is such an awful thing to do. You can claim to fix imaginary anime characters however long you want, but fixing a portrait of a real person and changing their look to the point where you're literally disregarding things like race, body weight, and skin color is just cyberbullying and harassment to me. And even when the artist quoted their fixed version and tried to call them out, they still tried to justify what they just did, claiming they were fixing the artist's ugly art. Maybe don't use a commissioned work of a subscriber because they quite literally do not look like this, and also the idea of fixing art is very lame. Thanks for the retweet. You really need to work on your poses. They're very stiff and ugly. Shading with purple is a no-go too. How can you be so ignorant and self-absorbed to the point where you can't see that what you're doing is just so wrong? The absolute confidence and just arrogance to another artist is just beyond me. Zeefixesart continued to cause a ruckus within the art community for several weeks, still fixing art and claiming their versions were superior to everyone else, and every other artist just hated fat people, which was why they were trying to correct that and change all the artists to better people. And then out of nowhere, someone hacked their account, and this was met with a lot of celebration within the art community because the biggest troll had finally fallen. And as much as everyone just wanted to see them leave the platform, we just never saw that coming. The hacker then changed their bio and the art on the page and literally just transformed the page into something else. They started making parody fan art of Zeefixesart and hypersexualizing them in weird ways, mocking them for being an LGBTQ Muslim, which was just pushing the envelope a little too far. Most people on the internet had mixed feelings regarding what the hacker was doing. Some people just enjoyed the entire drama and the outcome of the situation and were laughing their asses off, while others didn't approve of the extreme measures the hacker took to rid us of this nightmare. I would have shown more sympathy if they had not bullied other artists and made what could be easily described as fetish art, which could make them a hypocrite. By the way, I never thought I would say this, but I do think they deserve to be hacked. While I agree what Zeefixesart did was wrong, I don't think they should have gotten hacked. Not only did they get hacked, but they posted not safe for work of their character, which is most likely based on themselves from real life. I don't think they deserve that to happen, but I still agree with you in the fact that what they did was wrong. What Zeefixesart did for so long was really terrible and just became extremely annoying, especially for everyone that it happened to, but I still don't think they deserve to get hacked and have Rule 34 drawings mocking them and their religion. Hey bro, can you not? Sure, fixing art is really shitty, but posting not safe for work of real people is so much worse. Please don't praise the hacker. No one deserves that. If Zeefixesart was a real person, it would have been extremely wrong drawing Rule 34 versions of their character and then posting them all over Twitter without their consent, even if after everything they did, they kind of deserved it. Aside from fixing official art, Zeefixesart frequently took fan art and made sure to send the fixed version to the artist. They were an unapologetic trash heap of a human being, refused to back down when confronted, and got fitting comeuppance for their actions. Sorry, but they got exactly what they deserved. The Zeefixesart controversy left people with so many assumptions and speculations on who Zeefixesart really was. Most people were fully convinced this person was just a troll that just went around fixing people's art pretending they cared about diversity and were advocating against fat phobia even when no one asked them to in the first place. But some others started to slowly detangle the maze and began pointing fingers at a certain YouTuber they felt could have been Zeefixesart all along. Just saying, I don't have any proof Zeefixesart was creepshow art, but I think them both using the same freckled brush is hilarious and suspicious, knowing that creepshow art was just outed for posting mean girl shit and arguing with herself to cause drama on lolcow forums. Looking at it side by side, I wouldn't be shocked if creepshow art was Zeefixesart all along. Plus, wasn't this the only personal art Z fixed? The rest was commercial art, wasn't it? Now these are all pretty big assumptions, especially since there wasn't any direct evidence that could back these claims. But then that also doesn't mean we can just automatically discredit them and label them as false, especially after the entire drama that happened with creepshow art and how she was exposed to be pretending to be another person while calling others out and stalking another fellow YouTuber. Now, placing both drawings side by side, we can see that they both use the same speckled brush in both of their drawings to emphasize the freckles on the characters. But because two artists used the same brushes in both of their images, that just doesn't make them the same person, especially if both drawings do not look the same or even have a similar art style. But placing these particular drawings side by side with each other, things begin to get a bit more interesting. The line weight and thickness of both drawings look almost the same and could pass as have been drawn by the same person. But what even stands out more than anything else is the overall style of the face and the way the features are drawn. The drawing from creepshow art has the same style of nose and blush that is seen in almost every drawing from Zeefixesart. Even the eyes look slightly the same. Now a betting man will say they were probably drawn by the same person, and from the looks of it, the chances of this happening are far more than likely. My good friend Thumin made a video addressing the Zeefixesart controversy, and she too had her assumptions on the identity of Zeefixesart, and she talked about it in her video.
However, I do wholeheartedly believe that Z was a troll who hated quote-unquote SJW artists and thus decided to make this caricature of them by being outrageous with their fixings in order to get others to despise the evil SJWs as well. Last but not least, the third theory is that Zeefixesart was actually creepshow art all along. I know, this is a crazy one, but hear me out. This theory was brought up on Twitter after creepshow art was exposed for having alts, faking her hacking, and other things which I won't go into in this video. Some believe that there are many similarities with creepshow art's art style compared to Zeefixesart. Apparently they both use the same freckled brush, which also raised suspicion amongst Twitter users. There are other similarities in their stories, like how Z claimed to have been hacked and creepshow art also claimed to have been hacked. Some also find it odd that the only YouTuber Z targeted was none other than creepshow art. Z's normal targets were anime characters from games or shows, but suddenly they just chose to single creepshow art out and fix her art instead. Could this have all been a coincidence? Well, I must say that while this theory sounds interesting, I'm not fully convinced, nor do I believe in it personally. I feel like while there are some odd coincidences, I would need more evidence before I could fully commit to believing that theory. This is also because when creepshow art was exposed, everyone ran around accusing every living human being of being creepshow art. Heck, someone even accused me of being creepshow at one point, and I have an accent, so there's that.
Thumin recently passed 300k subscribers on her YouTube channel, and with the quality of videos she makes, carefully listening and understanding both sides of a situation and expressing her opinions with well thought out commentary, I'm surprised she doesn't have way more subscribers. So please go subscribe to her channel and watch every one of her videos because they're really just that good. Well, we all thought Zeefixesart was gone for good, especially since they probably lost all access to their account and there was no way for them to come back on Twitter again trolling artists, even if they tried to open a new account, because after Twitter suspended the account that got hacked, there was no way they were going to be able to open another account using the same device or the same IP address. Everything seemed fair and well, the future of the art community shining bright like a diamond, making Rihanna proud. But little did we know that behind the scenes, Zeefixesart was busy plotting their return to the internet once more. But this time around, they decided to switch social media platforms and start from the ground up once more, terrorizing artists. While everyone thought Zeefixesart was buried by the hacker on Twitter, Zeefixesart took to Facebook, created a page, and has since been using it to share their epic fixed art and attack artists they don't find appealing. Bruh, I found Zeefixesart on Facebook and they fixed the Genshin husbandos, Venti, and Paimon. Not only that, but they got my girl Ariel from The Little Mermaid. Now searching for the name Zeefixesart on Facebook won't bring up any result. I guess they figured out they shouldn't use their name on Facebook so as not to draw unwanted attention to themselves, so they decided to name the page I Hate Fatphobic. The page has almost 7,000 likes, and on the about page it literally says, "All of my suffering on this world has been at the hands of humanity, particularly fatphobic people," which is such a bold claim to make since they never really showed us any proof of anybody harassing them online because of their weight, but they always kept on insisting they hated fatphobic people and that their life is a mess because of fatphobic people. They seem to have continued fixing art, and the one that just took me unaware was their version of the Sailor Moon Draw This in Your Style. They did the usual thing where they changed the character black and then proceed to making them overweight and covering them with hair, and then doing everything they could to make a really bad drawing. They also started fixing some NFTs and selling their own stolen versions of these NFTs of other people's work, which just gives me a headache every time I try to think of that entire scenario. And aside from that, their art became notably worse, and at this point it's so obvious that this person is clearly trolling, and I don't even see the point in this anymore. They still have people who believe what Z is doing is justifiable and support them, but for how long do they intend to keep this trend of fixing art going? Their last post was on the 31st of December, and since then they have not posted anything else on their Facebook page or updated it with any new information. The account is now dormant and inactive, with most of the reviews being mostly negative and discouraging people who stumble across the account from engaging with it. It seems everyone finally saw through Zeefixesart trolling, and no one was falling victim to any more of their race baiting and fatphobic representation perspectives, and honestly, I think it's best if it remains this way. So it appears Zeefixesart had a twin that was fixing art too, who apparently called themselves Zeefixesart. Zeefixesart's carbon copy, who apparently thinks fixing art is cute and did it for fun as if it were a normal hobby people do casually. Zeefixesart, who became the biggest troll in the art community for quote-unquote criticizing artists by fixing their art and basically turning popular anime characters into black chubby characters covered in hair and claiming they were advocating for fatphobia with their art, somehow managed to become a role model for some reason to people who later would go on to become trolls in the art community on Twitter and other social media platforms. Meet Zeefixesart, a literal clone of Zeefixesart, who believes fixing art is a joke and decided it will be very funny to fix characters just to get a reaction from the art community on Twitter, and also annoy the fan bases of every character they fixed. In their bio, they stated their account is for parody and also hoped people who find their art will like it, which surprisingly enough, I actually do like it. You can tell their art looks good, they have a pretty decent art style, and they understand how to use color. But with all their skills and understanding of art, it still baffles me why they decided to use it to become another soulless troll on Twitter. I'll assume with great power comes great responsibility, which in this case means using your art for better reasons, or at least making yourself purposeful by taking commissions to provide value to people who appreciate your work and receive payment as a compliment for your time spent. But I guess Uncle Ben was wrong after all. Sorry, Uncle Ben.
Right.
Hi, my name is Rose. I like to fix racist and fatphobic art. I speak English and Spanish. I hope you guys like my work. You can always DM me for fixing requests, or if you need someone to talk to. DM me for fixing requests? That has to be the most obnoxious thing I have read this week on Twitter. It's funny how people just automatically turned fixing art into a genuine art form, just like how artists take commissions, and now people are literally asking a random account that clearly calls themselves a parody account of an art fixer to fix any image they think is not okay or doesn't represent whatever marginalized group they believe is the new trend to support and ask for inclusivity for. Rose Fixes Art, just like Zeefixesart, specifically went after characters that were drawn to have white skin, saying the artist's style looks like something out of Cal Arts, insinuating the art is inferior without pointing out what exactly is wrong with the drawing aside from the style, and also questioning the original artist's choice of skin tone, claiming the artist had never seen a black person before and they drew their character with baggy clothes because the character was supposedly ashamed of how they looked, so they fixed them to be chubby so they could fit in the clothes. Like, why? Why would you go out of your way to literally redraw another person's character, and not even in like a respectful way or as fan art or paying tribute to the artist, but as an insult, mocking the artist and the way they draw and superimposing your own opinion of the character without their consent, pretending to critique the drawing and help the artist, when it is clear to you and every other normal person who saw the drawing that this is clearly not okay and is basically cyberbullying another artist on social media. People in the comments tried to call Rose Fixes Art out and told them what they were doing was wrong and that they were drawing a wrong representation of what they thought Africans and African Americans look like, explaining that Africans looked a little less inspiring, which is just not true. Yes, there are obviously children that look like this due to the condition the economy of their countries are after war and conflict destabilized them, and for some others they look like that because they do not happen to be born with a silver spoon and are living hand to mouth. But still, in this same continent, there are people who boast of having more money than Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, who are hiding their wealth and living life quietly to avoid suspicious eyes prying into how they accumulated their wealth. But all these might just be nothing more than boasts. So anyway, using that image as a broad stereotypical generalization of what Africans look like is kinda disturbing to me, since it's absolutely wrong. Rose Fixes Art also went ahead to fix other characters as part of their joke on the art community, claiming the artists drawing fan art of the characters were making them sexualized, so they made them better by making them trans and giving them dark skin. But the main drawing they fixed that got a major reaction from the Twitter art community was when they decided to take Gwen from Total Drama Island, who looks like this, and fix them to look like this. Like, I just can't. So let me get this straight. According to Rose Fixes Art, changing the character's skin color and making them extremely overweight is their quote-unquote fix that promotes inclusivity and diversity for people of color and also advocates for body positivity in the art community? Right. Wow, I guess then every other artist has been doing it wrong. And as you must have expected, a lot of people came after Rose Fixes Art in the comments, calling them out for not advocating against fatphobia but making a drawing that seems like a joke towards people suffering from obesity. This has to be a joke account, right? I pray to God it is. I doubt there are any sane people in this world who think this is fixing a character. I wait for a haha it was bait bro moment. What is up with y'all fixing people then adding hijabs? That's racist, as if you're saying people who aren't Muslims are not good. And how is making someone fat fixing? That's like saying skinny people also aren't good. So you made her Muslim, made her fat, and then you just said you fixed her? You broke the entire character of her. Please go and get some help. This is not art or even a piece of doodling. It's just pure holy shit. But the comment that stood out to me was the one from a person who said they actually suffered from obesity and the fixed version of Gwen made them feel uncomfortable after seeing it. I suffered from morbid obesity. It is not something healthy. It is not something a person should be proud of, even though at first I wanted to be proud of it, but I suffered so much. The fact that Zeefixesart thought they were going to change the art community with their arts by fixing characters and thinking people will be cool with it is just surprising to me. At this point, it was clear no one was finding any of these jokes funny, and everyone started calling the account another Zeefixesart all over again. It was clear they were literally trolling the art community on Twitter, and everyone was getting mad and couldn't help but get annoyed from what Zeefixesart was doing, because no matter how hard they tried to ignore their art or hide the page, the drawings always managed to show up on most people's timelines, and the fixes kept on getting worse one after the other, becoming more cringe as Zeefixesart took their trolling to the next level. It's sad how someone who actually knows how to draw just chose to spend their time being a pain in the ass to artists on Twitter as a form of comedy, with the only person laughing being them alone. That time could have been spent doing other productive things, or even teaching other artists how to improve their work on Twitter and sharing their knowledge, but you know, not everyone eventually gets to be a beacon of hope to others. Another account people have also speculated to be a copycat of Zeefixesart is a Facebook page that was named I Hate Fatphobic and seemingly came out a while after Zeefixesart got banned from Twitter after their account was hacked. The page has almost 7,000 followers, which is really shocking and baffling to me. Like, are these people following them because they like people fixing art, or are they following them because they don't like them? Like, I'm so confused. Why are 7,000 people following an account that fixes art? Like, if you all don't know who to follow, at least go follow my Twitter where I post my drawings at Mohammed again. Because like, how? So this account also fixes popular characters in their spare time, doing the same thing Zeefixesart and Zeefixesart did, making the characters overweight and giving them dark skin. And in my older video, I assumed this was probably Zeefixesart who just created a page on Facebook to continue trolling artists and fixing their art. But comparing their art, you can clearly see that the Facebook page has worse drawings compared to Zeefixesart. The line weight isn't exactly the same, the colors are different, and Zeefixesart's drawings, although it hurts me to say this, but their drawings look better than the Facebook page. That doesn't mean they're good or make them a good person. They're still a troll, and I'm sure everyone can unanimously agree on that. Which they do apparently. This person needs to take anatomy courses along with learning how to articulate better. This may be a troll on the internet, but hopping from different social media to repeat the same mistakes is sad. Many wish for their account to be hacked or worse. For me, they are downright being disrespectful to the artists, creators, and actual people they claim to represent or fix with their page. I swear to God, if you're still doing this like 2 or 5 years, you're just wasting your life. Just go do something else. Something that does not hurt or make someone's life miserable. I do not want to judge, but it's lame. This site or page is full of disrespect and racism. Never come here. This is way disrespectful to other original artists and fan artists. Every artist has their right, I know, but you must give respect to the original artists as well. This is nothing but cyberbullying so far. Also, this thing is just an SJW's page. You can look at it, but this is nothing but unholy. This group should be reported. And that I agree with. Almost all the reviews on the page were just other people dumping on them and calling them out for their bad art and horrible takes on already existing characters, with some other people just hating on them, calling them names and accusing them of spreading negativity, hate, and promoting racism. And to be honest, if ever there was a sign to just stop and change as a person or an artist, this must have been it. It's embarrassing to say this, but Zeefixesart had a huge impact on the art community, especially on Twitter, most of it being negative, but for some reason they somehow inspired other people to just take other people's work and force their own opinions on the person's drawings without fear of getting backlash or cancelled in the art community. People started fixing art because they saw what Zeefixesart was doing, and they believe Zeefixesart was becoming popular for trolling and fixing art, so they too decided to do the same thing because they wanted to be popular as well, even if it were for the wrong reason, which surprisingly enough is not how it ends up being for them, because people won't remember you for being impactful, but they will remember your name for being a troll and a nuisance to other artists in the community. Now kids are even stealing other people's drawing and fixing them on TikTok, making videos doing this, thinking it is cool and edgy. Not only is this wrong and inappropriate, but it just doesn't make any sense stealing another person's work because you want to fix it and troll other kids on TikTok. I think the art community has a good number of trolls and people trying to be mean and nasty to other artists, hiding behind things like race, the color of the skin in the drawings of their characters, and using diversity as an excuse to harass artists on Twitter when they don't like their drawings or need to critique the artist for not correctly getting the skin tone of a character right. Now don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with correcting an artist if they don't know how to paint darker skin tones or they posted a drawing that could be termed as whitewashing, but using critique as an excuse to be mean to them is not okay at all. You can have mutual discourse with an artist without being impolite and insulting, and without stealing their work and claiming to fix it. Sometimes these artists might not truly know how to paint the skin tone, which may or may not be the case. Other times the artist might have just been drawing a different version of the character and really didn't need their art fixed without their consent. There's a fine line between being a critique and being rude, and your ability to know when you're crossing that line is what defines your character as a person. Well, fortunately for us, both the Zeefixesart and the wannabe Zeefixesart on Facebook have been inactive on both of their accounts for a while, so it's safe to assume they're probably not going to come back and cause a scene in the art community again. Although none of them got their accounts suspended on Twitter, they most likely should have moved on to doing other things in their lives and may have forgotten they once relied on trolling the art community to make up for their inability to build a fan base without purposefully race baiting people and pretending to care about whatever marginalized group is trending at the moment and looks cool to advocate representation for. But if somehow they still come back on their accounts from time to time to think about trolling again, then I really don't have anything to say to them. And as for the people following these art fixers and encouraging them to continue doing what they're doing, I'm sure you have heard it 1,000 times over that what they're doing is wrong. I'm sure you know deep down that getting people worked up is not okay, and I hope one day you will mature to understand how toxic behaving like this on the internet is, and you'll look back and see how cringe these people were. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. Please leave a like on the video, share it with a friend, and subscribe to my channel if you're new here. And if you'd love to see more of my drawings and further drawing tutorials I hope to post in the future, please subscribe to my second channel, link in the description. I'll see all you pretty penguins in the next video. Bye.